Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Uh, this is class 10th chemistry, and the chapter is metals and non-metals. So let us discuss first metals, their physical properties. As you know, there are about 118 elements known at present. So there are similarities as well as differences in the properties of these elements. So on the basis of their properties, all the elements can be divided into two main groups, metals and non-metals. So both metals as well as non-metals, they are used in our daily life. We use a large number of compounds of metals and non-metals. Now what are the metals? Metals are the elements that conduct heat and electricity and are malleable and ductile. Metals are lustrous, hard, strong, heavy, sonorous. If we take some examples of metals, iron, aluminium, copper, silver, gold, platinum, zinc, tin, lead, mercury, sodium, potassium, calcium and magnesium. So these are the examples of metals. A majority of the known metals elements, they are metals. All the metals are solids except mercury, which is a liquid metal. Metals are the elements which form positive ions. Metals are widely used in our daily life for a large number of purposes. The cooking utensils, electric fans, sewing machines, cars, buses, trucks, trains, ships, aeroplanes, they are all made of metals or mixtures of metals called alloys. The most abundant metal in the Earth's crust is aluminium, which constitutes about 7% of the Earth's crust. Now, if we take non-metals, they are the elements that do not conduct heat and electricity, and they are neither malleable nor ductile. They are brittle. Non-metals are not lustrous. They have dull appearance. So the examples of non-metals are carbon, sulfur, phosphorus, silicon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, chlorine, bromine, iodine, helium, neon, argon. Now we will study the physical properties of metals. The important physical properties of metals are, first one, metals are malleable, that is metals can be beaten into thin sheets with a hammer without breaking. यानी हम उनको thin sheets बना सकते हैं जब हम उसको hit करेंगे. For example, if we take a piece of aluminum metal, place it on a block of iron and heat it and beat it with a hammer 4 or 5 times, we will find that the piece of aluminum metal turns into a thin aluminum sheet without breaking. So this property, the property which allows the metals to be hammered into thin sheets, is called malleability. So it is an important malleability is an important characteristic property of metals. Most of the metals are malleable. Gold and silver metals are some of the best malleable metals. That means they can be beaten into thin sheets. Aluminium and copper metals are also highly malleable metals. All these metals can be beaten with a hammer to form very thin sheets called foils. For example, silver metal can be hammered into thin silver foils because of its high malleability. The silver foils are used for decorating sweets. Similarly, aluminium metal is quite malleable and can be converted into thin sheets called aluminium foils. They are used for packing food items like biscuits, chocolates, medicine, cigarettes. Now, second property of metals are ductile. That is, metals can be drawn or strung of thin wires. इनको हम wires भी बना सकते हैं. So they are ductile. The metals such as copper, aluminium, magnesium and iron, they are available in the form of wires. The property which allows the metals to be drawn into thin wires is called ductility. Ductility is another important characteristic property of metals. So most of the metals are ductile. Gold is the most ductile metal. For example, just 1 gram of gold can be drawn into a thin wire about 2 kilometers long. Silver is also among the best ductile metals. Copper and aluminum metals, they are also very ductile and can be drawn into thin copper wires and aluminum wires, which are used as electric wires. The third property is metals are good conductors of heat. That means metals allow heat to pass through them easily. So they are good conductors of heat. Silver metal is the best conductor of heat. It has the highest thermal conductivity. Copper and aluminum metals, they are also very good conductors of heat. The cooking utensils and water boilers are usually made of copper or aluminum metal because they are very good conductors of heat. Now fourth property is metals are good conductors of electricity. That means metals allow electricity or electric current to pass through them easily. Silver metal is the best conductor of electricity. Copper metal is the next best conductor of electricity, followed by gold, aluminum and tungsten. The electric wires are made of copper and aluminum metals because they are very good conductors of electricity. The metals like iron and mercury offer comparatively greater resistance to the flow of current, so they have low electrical conductivity. The fifth property is metals are lustrous or shiny and can be polished. So by saying that metals are lustrous, we mean that they have a shining surface. For example, gold, silver and copper are shiny metals and they can be polished. The property of a metal of having a shining surface is called metallic luster or chamak. The shining appearance of metals makes them useful in making jewelry and decoration pieces. For example, gold and silver are used for making jewelry because they are bright and shiny. The shiny appearance of metals makes them good reflectors of light. Sixth property is metals are generally hard except sodium and potassium, which are soft metals. So most of the metals are hard, but all the metals are not equally hard. Sodium and potassium are soft metals which can be easily cut with a knife. So generally most metals are hard. Metals are strong mostly except sodium and potassium, which are not strong. So they can hold, strong means they can hold large weights without snapping. So another property of metals are solids at room temperature. So they are solids at room temperature except mercury, which is a liquid metal. Another property is metals have high melting points and boiling points. So metals have very high melting points and boiling points except sodium and potassium. They have low melting and boiling points. For example, if we take the example of iron, the melting point of iron is 1535 degrees Celsius. The melting point of copper is 1083 degrees Celsius. Another property is metals have high densities. So they means they are heavy substances. Except sodium and potassium metals, they have low densities. Metals are sonorous, that is metals make sound when hit with an object. So metals make sound. They are capable of producing a deep or ringing sound. If we suspend a big piece of metal and strike it with an object, we will find that it makes a ringing sound. So it is a property of sonorous or sonority that metals are used for making bells and musical instruments like sitar and violin. So another property is metals usually have a silver or grey color except copper and gold. So these are the physical properties of metals.